Great. Well, welcome everybody this morning. As mentioned, we're going to be taking a look at Expo 67. And it's funny how sometimes things come in waves. I have so many films and things to do, but over the years, I had been buying 16 mm films and didn't have the capability to do it. And I finally upgraded the scanner to 16 mm. So I had these two rolls of film that were 16 mm. One was labeled Expo 67 silent, and the other just Expo 67. So I had no idea what to expect from them. I'm going to do the one that was just Expo 67 first. That's a travelogue or a souvenir film that was done by Castle Movies. And you could buy it in an 8 mm version, which was silent. You could buy it in 16 mm silent or 16 mm sound. Over the years, it turned bright red. I've been able to restore some movies that have turned bright red. This one I can get to looking like a sickly green. I said, well, I can either go with red, I can go with sickly green, or I can go with black and white. So let me just let somebody else in here. So I'm going to show it, and then I'm going to talk a little about what was required to put this thing back together again. So hang on here. Let me share screen. Share sound, optimize for video, and we're going to go with this one here. And here we go.
Montreal, April 28, 1967. The gates of Expo 67 open, and the greatest international fair ever conceived is underway. The flags of 122 member nations fly in tribute at the United Nations Pavilion. The theme of the fair, ambitious in its conception, is man and his world. More than 60 participating nations portray man's role in civilization. Canada's Katamavik, Eskimo for gathering place, extends a symbolic welcome. Expo 67 marks the 100th anniversary of Canada's birth as a nation. People from all over the world come to share and enjoy the birthday celebration. The exposition covers an area of 1,000 acres. Trailer trains in the overhead Minirails take one in an exciting trip through the exposition. The provinces, like Ontario, tell the story of Canada's phenomenal progress. The two nations that mothered Canadian culture do honor with their imposing pavilions. Canadians may well be proud of France's contribution. Within its walls, it presents the theme of tradition and invention and the French genius at all levels. The Union Jack tops Great Britain's soaring tower. Her exhibit portrays the challenge of change. Her links with Canada are the partnership of history. The province of Quebec's all-glass structure seems to float in the sky. Unlike past fairs, Expo 67 has been hailed for the purity of its architecture and the national cultures it reflects. Switzerland brings a breath of the Alps. From the north, Scandinavia. From the east, Iran. Ornate tiles cover its facade. India maps her ambitious future. Africa's emerging nations show their new look. Thailand and its Buddhist shrine with gilded roof and towering spire was built in Thailand and reassembled here. Neighboring Burma is also Thailand's Expo neighbor. Dominating Ile Sainte-Helene is the 20-story United States exhibit, a geodesic bubble that the visitor can approach aboard the mini-rail that runs through the building. The inside displays creative America with its tributes to everything that has made the country great. The mini-rail crosses to Ile Notre-Dame. At the other end is the Soviet Pavilion. The sweeping roof of the USSR building shelters an ambitious exhibit of Soviet space achievements and emphasizes the progress made since the revolution 50 years ago. The Soviet theme is everything in the name of man for the benefit of man. Transportation is plentiful. There's much to see. Ethiopia brings Africa's ancient culture to the New World. Czechoslovakia has a rare blend of modern technology and traditional arts to show the visitor. There is fine glass and ceramics, and the joyful dolls that delight old and young. Italy is another blend, a rewarding mixture of poetry and progress, art and utility. Greece tells the story of its culture and its influence on man. Japan's three-section building is a blend of modern technology and traditional style. 35 miles of aluminum tubing wrap the Netherlands pavilion in a metal cocoon. Mexico. And a slice of its gay life play to Latin rhythms. Kaleidoscope presents man and color, an adventure in color, motion, and sound. Israel, land of the Bible. Its historic displays dramatize the birthplace of Western religions. West Germany is a plastic free-form tent supported by steel masts, an architectural innovation that houses the evidence of the nation's comeback. A hop away is Australia, land of the kangaroo, where a great continent comes alive. Yugoslavia terms its exhibit a bridge between countries. Framed by splashing fountains is Alexander Calder's monumental sculpture, Man. The theme buildings of the fair pay tribute to man's contributions to the world. Most lasting symbol of Expo 67 may be Habitat, a 12-story community housing 158 families. Canada's great exposition will go down in history as one of the most imaginative and boldest events ever staged. This is Expo 67, the story of man, his dreams, his hopes, his spirit, and his achievements.
Well, did that make everybody want to get back to go see Expo 67 again?
It reminds me of Walt Disney World.
Oh yeah, it's interesting. One of the talks I give, I talk about how Spaceship Earth and the U.S. Pavilion, and fairs and things have certainly a love for globe shaped buildings. There's no doubt about that. Well, I thought that was a nice souvenir film. I had the silent version of it forever. I'm just trying to turn another monitor on here so I can get back to my screen controls. I had the silent version of that film for years, and you know, I think the narration adds a lot to that particular one. Let me stop the share here for a second. So Carolyn, Litton scripts are like this, trying to fit in everything and still sound conversational. Yeah, under guidance of a committee. But you know, I was listening to something the other day where the announcer was just so thrilled and so wowed. You know, it's like they were selling soap or something. You know, but you know, I thought that was a nice, nicely done film. Now, when I was out with Carol walking the dogs today, I was mentioning how you know this thing was done. So I thought I would just pull up real quick another section of video here, real quick. And where do we go here? Okay, let me get to this 1 second here. Again, oh, on this particular film, you may have noticed some dirt marks and stuff like that. Up until I did this, I hadn't had a method for cleaning 16mm film. Every time I scan a film, I physically clean it by hand, trying to get all the dirt and everything off it. But I didn't have a 16mm capability of doing that. So I've since figured out how to clean 16mm, and I'll be going back and redoing this to try to get some of the dirt out. That and the same with the next one I'm going to do. I just this past week bought a 35mm film on eBay, which is a preview of the upcoming Expo 67. I have no ability to scan 35mm yet, but luckily I know somebody that can, so I'll get that done. But let me go here 1 second, share screen. And yes, I'll tell you how this was all done. So share screen. Okay, share. Basically, what I have to do is scan the film twice. You look off to the right. So there's the optical soundtrack that is on the side of the film. There's a really great little software program. It's free, AEOL Lite, that takes those optical patterns of the soundtrack and turns them back into sound. So what I had to do is do it twice. Once so I could get the right margin of the film, and then another time just the film without the distracting right margin and the soundtrack, and put them together. But if anybody does have sound films, it's really nice to be able to use this pre-program to get it for you. So let me go into the next film. The next film is really neat. I really enjoyed seeing it again. I get this reel, and it just says Expo 67 Silent. And we're going to go see some of that now. So let's see, Expo 67. Hopefully this is the right one. Nope, that's the one I want to do next. So hang on 1 second. Reel 13. Okay, here we go. So this is a helicopter tour at the Expo site. We started in downtown Montreal. This is silent if anybody has any particular thoughts or observations during it. I stuck the annoying copyright thing in there because if I don't, somebody will grab it on their own. And I may, after I clean this and rescan it, offer it in a high resolution download on my site. So I didn't want somebody else grabbing it first. But if you go to Montreal, there's the port, and there's the Expo site. And again, well under construction, there is habitat, all the cranes, and what a sea of mud. I haven't quite been able to date exactly when this was shot, but it was early 67. The winter snow is pretty much gone. They're getting closer to opening day, but you can still see there was a fair amount of work still to be done. There's the Caddy Mavic. This I got a kick out of seeing because I had never seen it in person without the translucent panels that filled the inside of the inverted pyramid. So as we get up there, keep an eye out for the people working up on the edge, and you can get an idea of the scale of just how big that thing is. But you can also, if you look right through it, you can see they just starting to put the panels on off to the right. The helicopter is going to swing around and give us another view. But it kind of shows you how large this thing was. And all the steel that had to go into holding it up.
Wow.
There's somebody working on it. And I don't see any safety harnesses or anything else. Ugh, makes you nervous just watching, thinking about helicopter downdraft going over the guy as he's up there on it.
Just a note about the architect's inspiration for the design of the Katimovich. It was an ashtray.
I just got a message, my network bandwidth is low.
Oh, okay. Carol's having trouble with her computer. It's driving us crazy. She gets connected, everything is going great, and then 2 days later, the bandwidth problem goes crazy. So it was done from an ashtray, huh?
Exactly. And one of the architects was the architect who 2 decades later would design Toronto's Sky Dome, our dome stadium, Rod Robbie, who was an Australian.
That's neat. There's the French Pavilion. One of the few remaining structures still there today.
How much do you think is gone now, Bill, of all this? 50%? 30?
Oh, of this stuff, 99%. I mean, about the only thing left are the French Pavilion, which we just saw, which is a casino, the Quebec Pavilion, which is a warehouse and storage thing for the casino. And then you got a few others, I think, is it Jamaica? There's a couple
Yes.
other buildings that are still there, but like in this shot, everything here is gone.
Yeah.
You can see the dot of the helicopter, the shadow of it going over the facility.
Mm-hmm.
But it gives you an idea of just how huge this whole thing was. I mean, it's a tremendous, tremendous sight. If folks haven't been there, there's steel off to the right, the USSR.
That was
And you
massive.
get a nice view inside. That orange structure inside became a theater.
So did they recycle after they tore everything down, or is it all just dumped in the river, or what happened to all
Well,
of them?
this particular one, the USSR pavilion, is back in Moscow. They had a habit of taking their pavilions from different World Fairs and putting them in a park in Moscow. A number of others were given to other places. One of them became a merchant or whaling museum or something up in Canada. There's the U.S. Pavilion with the plastic pieces still being put on the dome. So and most of them got taken apart and just sold for scrap metal or pieces. A few of them did get relocated to other spots.
Yes, one of the islands was kept open annually as a summer exhibition called Man in His World till 1984. This particular island, the Ile Sainte-Hélène.
Yeah, it was operated as Man in His World, which was, again, I've mentioned in other talks. I didn't know it was going to be there. I thought it was going to be all torn down, just like New York was. Then I go up to college in 1969. We went up to Canada because somebody wanted to introduce us to the sport of curling. Look across the water as I'm driving over there, and oh my God, there's the UK pavilion. You know, I could not believe it. Was like a dream that, you know, did they forget to tear it down? And then I went over there and it was open for the day and bought tickets and went in. It was just like it was the most surreal experience of seeing a World's Fair that you knew had in your brain had been torn down, but there it was still in front of you. It was like the thing out of dreams.
Yeah, I saw it twice in the 70s when it was Man in His World. Last time was in 79. There was still quite a bit of it left.
Oh, yes.
Not too bad for structures that were only supposed to last 6 months, right?
Mm-hmm. La Ronde still had a lot of the original attractions in it too.
What's that?
La Ronde?
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
the amusement area. We're going to see some of that, I believe. We're going to see it in the amateur film that comes after this.
So these domes, is that where Disney got their idea for their Epcot the dome they have at Walt Disney World, or
Well, the first big dome really came for the Perisphere at the 39 World's Fair. So, you know, it's again, where did the idea for that come from? Who knows? But you had that dome, you had this one, that you have Spaceship Earth. So people just like big brown things, I guess.
I
The
guess.
Spaceship Earth was the only freestanding sphere at its time. You know, seas go partially down to the ground; they're not complete sphere. But Spaceship Earth, what they did was they built the upper half on a sort of a table-like thing, and then they hung the bottom from that. It worked really well.
Nice clear day in Montreal, isn't it? You see well off into the hills and everything. So again, I was just thrilled. I mean, this was just sitting in a can of, oh, I need to stick the end title on there. So let me go and get over to the next film here. This is an amateur film. And we're going to take quite the tour of the site on this particular one. We'll take the Expo Express, we'll take the Minirails, we'll take the Skyway. I think we're going to be on a tram or anything, but we're going across Cosmos Bridge into the site now. This guy did a fairly nice job. Whoever it was that originally shot it, I had to take out the typical things where the camera's rolling and you get the picture of their feet as they're walking down the sidewalk of that. But he did not do a lot of rip the camera from scene to scene, you know, things that last 1 or 2 seconds. I took those out, bad splices, a few other odds and ends. I then had to put it all through the post-processing program to take out dirt, scratches, film grain, restore the colors. And it took 8.5 hours to run through that, because it's you'll see there's a 20-minute film. It's quite lengthy. But we go by Africa. I loved in the last one I mentioned how Thailand was built in Thailand and taken back here. They skipped this fact that it spent 2 years in New York along the way. We're getting some camera movement because he's on the moving, you know, rail system here. There's a Canadian Pulp and Paper, the disc there, Kaminko, come in and experience different sensations.
Bill, I have a question. You may have
Yeah.
answered this in earlier sessions. Was there a design template given to all of the building designers to follow for each of these?
No, it was pretty much a free reign. You know, that had worked out fairly well in New York from an architectural point of view. They didn't go with like a common theme, like say they later did for Expo 86, that sort of thing, where they had, you know, a lot of common structures. If you can find a unifying theme between any of these, let me know, because say between Pulp and Paper and the US Pavilion, one's round and the other's pointy, you know. Well, look at all the street lights. Aren't they just great? I wish I had those at home. If you've been to the site, the St. Lawrence River goes through at a really good clip, to the point where people take boogie boards out and go surfing on it, holding a rope tied to the bank. And the fact that they were able to expand the island and you know, put all the dirt out there and not have the river just wash it away is kind of amazing, to show how much effort they put into to building the site. There were I think 2 mini rail systems that ran around the facility, automated little trains. We're inside the USSR Pavilion right now. The mini rails were a huge hit, just like the People Mover at Disney World. You're tired, you want to sit down, you want to see the place, you can ride through it. And they got to be such a popular thing that people weren't getting off. They would just get on and keep riding it. It was also nice on a hot day, you got a breeze from it. So they finally had to change it, that you got to get on at one station, you had to get off at the next one, and then you could buy another ticket to get a ride back. But there were so many people just making the loop and, you know, trying to figure out what they want to see and plan their visit inside, that they had to go and change their operating. There's that theater up there on the upper left I mentioned in the construction film. Stained glass of all the road system in Moscow. And they had tremendous amount of their space hardware on display. Their Vostok satellites. This is a big quote here from Lenin, telling us how good their system's going to be, and everybody's going to be understood and loved. Bears are good for propaganda. So here we are looking down across the grounds. Sometimes when they change the films, the way 8mm film was done at this time was it came actually in a roll of 16mm wide film, and you would take it, put it in the camera, get to half the roll, open the camera, flip the cartridge around and redo it again, go to the lab, and then they would split it down the middle and to make 8mm films and splice it together for you. A lot of times you can tell where the end of the reel is because the people would not flip the film, open the camera and flip the film under dark conditions. You know, they might think, I'll just put my hat over it or do something. And you get some of that bleeding that you see the flashes off to the left side from time to time of light coming in. So there's the UK Tower. Looks like it was a steamy day coming up there. There's the Caddy Mavic in the back now with all sorts of people up top and everything filled in. This structure, as I mentioned, is still there today, but it's not open to the public. So these folks must have been up there visiting Canada. In the middle of his film, they went off to a park and they were chasing swans and doing some other odds in it. So I took out the non-expo stuff. Loading his camera. What was so nice about the site, it was just so big, as they mentioned the other film, 1,000 Acres, that even when you had good sized crowds there, you didn't get the feeling of being just jammed in, packed in, like you do at, say, a Disney park these days. There's some of the sculptures they were mentioning before in the other film. And you can see a bunch of gears and wheels turning that one around. So we'll be outside, and then we'll go inside Britain and take a peek.
Nice camera flip.
Yeah, it should have been J.J. Abrams at an early day. Huh? They just took out the last of the people movers at Le Ronde recently, and again, something was supposed to last 6 months, and you figure 50 years later, the thing was still chucking along.
I can't imagine they could get parts anymore.
No, it's just like the Seattle monorail. They had to make them all.
Wow.
We were talking to the mechanics working up in Seattle, and they said, thank God they had, the blueprints and everything, but every now and then a part would get damaged. Some would snap. You'd have to go take the good one off the working monorail, make a copy, and then put the other monorail back into service the next morning. So he said it was definitely a challenge to keep a 60-year-old train going. The big tall towers there with a clock below, that was the information booths, and they put those big sticks, rods, whatever you want to call them, poles up in the air so people could look around and try to spot one of those. Just like at the 64th fair, you'd spot a balloon, you knew it was a brass rail restaurant. Here they had those information booths. And that was a big differentiator between the 64 fair and others, that the 64 fair did not have a lot of information capability, find your way around, to ask when shows are open, that sort of thing. This is Swan Lake. Here comes the other people mover system. One being done in a blue motif, and this one just a silvery look.
These were automated, weren't they? No driver?
Yeah, they were. They had first been used at the Lausanne, Switzerland Expo in '64. The mini World's Fair they ran over there, kind of in protest to the New York one. And they were bought and brought one over here and built another one. When they decided to use the same system in Hemisphere in '68 in San Antonio, they decided they would not automate it. They would have a driver because they thought it would be safer. In reality, the driver wasn't paying attention, ran straight into the back of another train on the track, derailed it, knocked the train off the track, and killed somebody. So this is still there today in Plus Nations. So there are bits and pieces still there. But the Expo system was completely automated, didn't have any problems. They gave it under manual control and somebody got killed. So
Yeah.
Swan
It
Lake
definitely-
again. Still there today, much more natural looking facility, doesn't have the fountains or anything going on it, but the concrete edges are all taken out. Japan. Belgium in the background there.
These buildings look like they're there to stay.
Yeah, no, that's the thing about the World's
They
Fair. is
didn't
you gotta
look like
spend
they
a
were
lot-
gonna be torn down soon.
No, you gotta spend a lot of money on something that's only gonna last 6 months, but it's gotta keep everybody safe and everything while they're in there.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
That was the trouble with these for the winter. They didn't have heating systems and that sort of thing because they weren't planning on being open. So they had to do a tremendous amount of work to winterize them and get them all set for the season. And then over the years, every now and then one would just wear out. Usually the roofs would be the first to go, and they was just not worth repairing. So from year to year, and I had the chart on my site, you can see this one disappear, that one disappear.
Oh, look at the
Way
escalator. Wow.
big escalator to the space exhibits.
And at the time, it was declared to be the longest freestanding escalator in the world.
Yep. And a real Apollo capsule. We had not walked on the moon yet, but they had flown them and done Earth orbit tests. So big heady stuff in '67, thinking that man was soon going to walk on the moon. Mock-up of the lunar lander, then the big escalator again. This is still there, Don. If you go up to Canada, it's called Biosphere. The plastic skin is gone. But there's some really nice exhibits inside. And you can get quite a breeze on the upper platform.
Some great views.
Oh, it's really great. Yeah, they had quite a NASA exhibit there. Antique stuff like Mercury and Apollo. You get a kick out of it today. How many people would even know who these people are in the Hollywood section? But the U.S. Pavilion was very well attended. Had incredible lines, as I've shown in some of my still pictures. Did quite well. Then after the fair, they donated it to the city of Montreal, became Biosphere. Then a welder's torch set the plastic shell on fire, so the metal ribs are still there today, but it's open to the elements.
World's Fair.
64, New York.
67, Montreal.
Yeah, you put this out today. I wonder how many 20-year-olds would know who that is, or even this guy, right? And antique airplanes. It was really neat that the mini rail went all the way through it. And we'll hop over to Germany now. As they mentioned in the other film, it's a plastic structure. They did it here, and they later used the same techniques for the facility they built for the Olympics in Germany. But again, you had poles that looked like circus tents. They held up the roof from above, so it gave you a tremendous amount of exhibit space underneath.
Yeah, Denver International Airport has the same kind of design for its main
Yeah.
terminal for the Jeppesen building.
Yep. Giant sculpture. It had no particular name. Now we go over the La Ronde area. There's a La Spiral that would take you up to the top observation platform.
Yeah, that La Spirale was also from the Lausanne Fair in '64.
What's that?
The La Spirale was also at the Lausanne Fair in
Oh, was it? Okay.
1964.
Yeah.
Yes. So that and the mini rails were brought over.
I knew they had one there. I didn't know it was the same one. Thank you. So lit up at night, they used different type of street lights and things over at La Ronde than they did for the main part of the site. And then we took out the stuff of them chasing swans, and now we're back at the fair. A tremendous steel band. It sounded just fantastic out there. There's actually a record album that's exists of the band playing, but I've seen a lot of steel bands over the years. I've just never seen anyone the size of this one. In Venezuela, I always got a kick. A very stark, easy to build building, just basic squares, but very contrasting colors and very catching to the eye.
Very 60s.
Yep. Examples of mosaics. If you're out here in LA, you can go to the Getty Villa that Carolyn had in her picture background. They've got some just absolute breathtaking mosaics out there. The two superpowers so near and yet so far apart in many ways, right?
USSR building was huge.
Yeah, it was massive in size. Left quite a hole when they pulled it out. There was just a concrete slab there that they ended up actually turning into a heliport that they gave sightseeing rides out of on the old site. Band shell there, just an acoustic backdrop for people to play music. They had imaginative names like Band Shell A, Band Shell B. Today, of course, you'd have naming rights, right? It'd be the crypto band shell or the Nike band shell or something else. These theme structures, after they deteriorated, if you go ever see the movie Quintet, Robert Altman film, they did a lot of filming there on site inside the French Pavilion, and these theme structures all covered in ice and everything. It's a very strange, bizarre film, but they gave it a real different background. They also used them in an episode of Battlestar Galactica. They go to the remnants of a failed civilization. By that time, the fair had not been using them, and they were in tremendous disrepair. We saw in the travel film, the souvenir film, a bunch of nuns. We just see some more going by. I got a kick there. It was a real short thing. Everything that there is to do at the fair, and the little boy was amusing himself by walking along the edge of a curb, trying to keep his balance. Back to Habitat. I just saw a nice listing for one of these units on sale. It was only 1.2 million Canadian, in case you would like to live inside a World's Fair relic.
I'll tell Mandy when we go up looking at houses.
I tell you, it's really a prestigious area to live in these days.
And they do have architect driven or architect guided tours of the Habitat site, and really worth taking them. I think it works out about $50 or so, but really that was on my bucket list to get a good look at the whole complex, and it really is worthwhile.
Yeah, last time I was there with the kids, and well, actually, the last time Carol and I were there, we didn't get over that way, but we were there for a quick trip. The last time we were there before that was with the kids, and there was no way I was going to spend the architectural tour on them. But I think if all goes well, we'll be going back up this way for my college reunion this year. I've talked in other talks about my fascination for tugboats, so I really got a kick out of that. The St. Lawrence Seaway is a tremendous thing for moving ships back and forth between the Great Lakes and out to the ocean. So part of the thing here, oh, there goes the hovercraft. They would bring in Navy ships, and put them in there for visit, but you constantly had the cargo ships. Exhibit here on how they built Habitat, the cranes, and it was all preformed concrete stuff that they would go and lift up into place there. So let me stop there. So that was a look of what you call it, Don Lancaster. Zoom is crashing every few minutes for me. Immediately logged back on. Anybody else seeing that?
Nope. It stopped doing it just after I reported it. So.
Oh, okay. Now, could you report Carol's internet problem? Maybe that will go away.
Who knows? Maybe Carol's internet problem was taking my machine down. Who knows?
Yeah, Eric Chu, question about Habitat. It was actually open during Expo 67. People bought units and moved in, and they ended up with an interesting problem that if anybody came to visit you, they had to get a ticket to go into Expo 67. So it worked out a scheme that you got a certain number of tickets, that you could give your friends and that. But people had problems. They were reporting, well, I got to pay admission to Expo 67 every time my cleaning lady comes in. Or, people would come in to, deliver, say, a new couch or something like that. So they had to work out a scheme where most of the deliveries, of course, they wanted made at night when, there weren't going to be trucks and everything all over the grounds. But they did come up with a method of, getting visitors in. Well, then you could go and take a tour, as Harold mentioned. They give tours now, but they also gave a tour back then of a unit. It was all decked out, appliances and everything. But people that lived there said they had the problem that the line for that was incredibly long. I've got pictures; they're just stretched all the way out. So people would get tired of the line. They would just go into Habitat, knock on somebody's door, and ask, "Hey, I don't want to wait online. Can I take a look around?" And some people said, "Yeah, sure." But then other people, "Could I use your bathroom?" So, living inside an exhibit with millions and millions of people coming down your hallway every day, I'm sure they were glad when the thing ended, and all of a sudden it became just a housing complex. But yeah, you read the things at the time. I bought it and I didn't realize I had to pay, for my mother to come visit me,
Yeah.
that sort of thing.
Or maybe that's a good way to not get your relatives to come visit you. Oh, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. You'll have to buy a ticket. Oh no.
Yeah, exactly. But I think it's like when I moved out here to California and somehow people found out I could go to Disneyland for free. I didn't know how many people just happen to be coming to California that would just you go to Disneyland, right? I said, "Who are you again?" "Oh, I live 6 doors down from your mother's mailman." I mean, what are you talking about? If you like, if you won the
Yeah,
lottery, think how many relatives you would find, you know?
for sure.
Yeah.
It's like our
Thanks for the
friend
information.
who owns a beach house at Rehoboth Beach.
What's that?
It's like our friend who has a beach house at Rehoboth Beach.
Oh yeah, I imagine everybody all of a sudden every summer is his good friend, huh? Wayne mentioned one thing here, the message board in operation. Again, things we take for granted today. They had the message boards, and they would say, you know, Expo hours tonight. I've got one movie I go through where there's a big thing. Well, Mr. John Smith from Santa Monica, please call this number. But they were all done on a computer tape, punch tape that they ran in the one center that went out there. But in this movie, there was a real quick shot, and I was saying something else. I didn't interrupt myself. You could see they had done some figure of, it looked like a boy and a girl, you know, and it looked like she was dancing or something on her foot toes, you know, like a ballet pose or something. And it was, you know, really today, of course, you know, when you've got jumbotrons in every stadium in the world or something, they were actually doing their version of ASCII graphics back then. So, you know, you almost expect to see a smiley face on one of them. Yeah, the Alexander Calder freestanding thing that was called Man, and you know, Carol is big into art, and we were out at the Huntington Museum a year ago, and I went out there and said, "Oh, look at that, a Calder," and she was, "How did you know that?" You know, and I said, "Well, because of the World's Fair." That's still on site. It has been moved to a new location, and it's more visible now from the shoreline of Montreal, so you can be there and look out and see it on the side of the site, as opposed to being down at the end of it, but it's still there today. And that again was another one built overseas. You know, he built little models, built the big thing, took it apart, shipped it over here, put it together. But it's really, really kind of neat to go over there. You know, walk around and stand under it, and you know, again, anytime it's like you go back to New York and you go to one of the General Foods arches, and you can walk up and put your hand on it. It's just like a connection back to, you know, when you were 12 again. So the mobiles, it's not a mobile, but his standing statue. Just reading through the rest of the chats. Yeah, like owning a boat or a pickup truck. Yeah, matter of fact, we keep wanting to buy firewood, and I got a neighbor down the street with a pickup truck. I got to go talk to him. I just want to have a big supply of wood in the house, so in case we ever have a big outage, we don't have to, you know, get chilly at night. But anyway, that was the look at Expo 67. Any other thoughts or observations people had, or any memories are brought back, or things you hadn't had noticed before? Well, I'm glad I can, like I said, do. Sorry, what, Baron? Sorry, what, Baron?
I was going to say I missed the first half hour of it, so I'm gonna when you repost this video on YouTube, I'll watch it again. I attempted to get online, but Zoom wanted me to download the update, and I attempted to do so, and then it crashed, and then it wouldn't update. So long story short, it took me a half hour to get back on. So I missed the first half hour, but I'll watch it again when you repost it. That's all I wanted to say.
Oh, sure, no problem. Oh, sure, no problem. Yeah, I have more films that I need to you know, scan. Now that I can do 16 millimeter, I've got a bunch of others that have just been sitting in boxes, you know, sticking them in the back of the closet. Now the problem is, which box was it? So, you know, it's there's other fun stuff, but I've got some other Expo 67 films that I have to do. They just came in this week, so yeah, I was enjoying, like I said, the helicopter tour. I got a real kick out of, because I've seen all sorts of construction views in black and white, you know, still pictures. But you know, when you've worked on a project like Carol and I worked on things like Epcot, and you go down there a month before opening and you say, "Oh, there's no way ever we're going to get this done in time." You know, and even, well, it's a week to go. There's no way. Oh, it's 2 days to go. Oh God, it's open. You know, and now you have to go and fix everything you didn't get done quite right. The thought of having to get the fair open, you know, and get everything done on time. And they talk about the logistics on some of these things where, you know, if you need to bring a crane in to put something at your pavilion, you need to schedule with everybody around you that's trying to bring cranes into their pavilion. And at Epcot, we had the problems where, you know, guys would do stuff like, okay, I got all the landscaping in perfect. It's all really nice and good. And then the guys come by that night with a backhoe because they forgot to put in a water line, you know, so, you know, lot of project management to get these things all done and put together on time. So, yeah, you were just in Montreal, Carolyn, probably a little cooler than when this was shot, but you got to go back and see more of it. It's a great site. I mean, walking around there is just beautiful.
Yeah, we saw it a couple of times driving by and didn't really have time to stop. We spent most of our time either downtown or at the old Olympic Village.
Yeah, Carol and I went out and we went out with Roger LaRoche, the guy that did the Canadian translation of my book. We went to Biosphere, had a great time, but we also went back out. We went to the casino, which was the French Pavilion, and we just walked around basically the perimeter of the site. You know, they've got a bicycle track, that sort of thing. Walked around taking pictures of everything that I could think of that was a piece of piece of the fair left. And then it was great. I mean, it's beautiful. It's got all sorts of trees and vegetation. It's everything's flowering, looking very nice. Beth is just asking, could you hold up one of the large negatives you've been scanning? Yep, I can do that. I've actually got the box of them here. And give me an idea of the size of them. This particular one, what are we looking at? Oh, if you can't see it, I can. This is the parachute jump at the 3940 fair. I've been having fun on these, and let me, just as long as I have folks, I'm going to pull up something here. Let me find it real quick. And actually right where it is. It's one of the few things in the house I know where it is. I just have to load that drive. Okay, black and white negatives, and I'll see if anybody knows what this particular exhibit was at the 39 fair. I just need to find, okay. There's Frank Buck. Is this the one I wanted? Yes, okay, let me go back here to share screen. Share screen. Okay, everybody see a picture of a man on a microphone, a woman walking by?
Mm-hmm.
Anybody have any idea?
That the Bring 'Em Back Alive guy?
What's that?
Is that the Bring 'Em Back Alive guy that we talked about a few weeks ago?
No, it's not. As a matter of fact, I have a really nice picture of that I can bring up here. But this particular one, I looked at the sign. It's DUGONGS, and I said, "What on earth is a dugong?" Well, evidently that's another word for mermaid, and this was an exhibit where they had scantily clad women cavorting in a giant tank of water as mermaids. So I had never in all my World's Fair days found another picture of the dugong exhibit. I did find online a mention of it in text. But that's the sort of thing I go through these things, look at them, and just boxes of stuff, and it's like, oh wow, what all of a sudden some stuff turns up that's something totally unique, and it's just kind of fun. But you mentioned the Frank Buck guy. So these negatives, again, you can pull amazing details out of these things. In this particular one, you can zoom in on the ticket booths, and you can get the prices, and you can let's see, zoom. You can see, unfortunately, the people that they've got painted up as natives here, bouncing on drums, but you can come over and look at the ticket booths. Adults 35 cents, children 15, tickets at the next window. So yeah, I mean, it's again, this is scanned, it's lying on the side because I haven't fixed it yet. You get tremendous amount of detail from these. Well, this is one I can't post this on Facebook because they'll come by and say I'm posting nudity, but the statue of the golden sprites. And if we look down at the sign here, female figures typifying the modern American type of beauty. So again, I bought this box a number of years ago, and it sat in the closet. They take forever to scan just for the size of it. But I've got, just reach over here to the scanner. Got this handy dandy little plastic holder. You put them on a flatbed scanner. It's an Epson V700 scanner, and goes through, scans it, and then you got to take up the dust and dirt and all that sort of stuff back out. But I'm just having a thrill because again, I hadn't ever looked through this box. So until I get, I kept like looking through it and then, figure which one do I want to scan. Now I just, nope, I'll wait for the next one and see what I got. It's like every day it's opening a new Christmas present. So it's kind of fun. How big are the negatives that your son's been scanning, Beth?
Well, those aren't negatives, they're slides.
Slides, right.
But they're glass and they're maybe like 3 by 4.
Yeah, this one measures here. This is 5 by 3.
Okay.
The same size as a 3 by 5 card, except for me, it's a 5 by 3 card. So yeah, it takes a while to go through them, but you end up with the same stuff you've seen 100 times, and all of a sudden, they're like that dugong thing. Never seen it before, so I got to share that online. So yeah, glad you liked it, Harold. Expo 67, tremendous amount of fun. I mean, it was to me my first time in a foreign country, and people were speaking a different language, and it was so neat and weird. But like I said, then to go back in 1969 to go to college, and my God, they forgot to tear it down. That was just, I'm sure my jaw just dropped. I mean, I had no idea whatsoever it was still standing, and then it was still there. Wow, it was. So Richard just sent a picture of U.S. Pavilion from 6 years ago. Let's see if I can see that. Oh, that's a great shot. Let me share it here. What does it open in? So let's see. Share screen. Wrong. Huh.
I think it showed up in chat as a link for me. So if you've got a link in chat, I think that's all I need. You don't need to take another step.
There you go.
There it is. Yeah, so that's the biosphere today. Again, the platforms are up there. You can take an elevator up. The escalators are gone, but you can take the elevator up, walk around there. They have exhibits and everything, and looks like you were there right as the fall colors are starting, so perfect timing.
It was a very nice thing. It was one of the last runs of an observation car that Amtrak was doing between New England or upper New York State and Maine and Montreal, and we were able to get on an old 50s era observation car to get there.
That's pretty neat. Yeah, I mean, it's glad that when they had the fire, and I've got pictures of it in a sad, ruined state, sat there for quite a few years. I'm glad they just didn't tear it all down. How long was construction? It was about 3 to 4 years, Eric. I forget exactly how long they started, because they had a small island. They always talk about a man-made island. Well, there was actually something there that they kind of started expanding, and then they built the other island and linked them together with bridges. So I think it was about 4 years it took them to build the site and compact the dirt. I've got the timeline somewhere on my site, because you can imagine they did all that fill and put it in, but now you had to compact it and get it all ready to build on. So it was quite the job. Do you have any more details, Harold?
Yes, in fact, originally the 67 World's Fair was awarded to Moscow by the Bureau of International Exhibitions back around 1960 or so. And in 62, Moscow decided they didn't want to have the fair anymore. Perhaps too many tourists coming in, looking at sensitive things in the Soviet Union. So they pulled out, and Montreal, which had lost to Moscow in the first vote, they said, okay, we'll go ahead. And so they had less than 5 years, when normally it's about 8 to 10 year lead time.
Yeah, it was an amazing project to pull off.
Yep.
I mean, the mayor of Montreal was just absolutely a visionary, and
oh yes,
yeah, I mean, what he did to advance the city with the whole subway system and everything else. He really left a mark on it. And
there still is a subway station on the island that does take you to the site from downtown, just one subway stop going under the river. And they renamed the station Jean Drapeau for him.
Yeah. I just hope they were just posting this week about how they're trying to redevelop the island, to finish some of the stuff, because like the Place des Nations has been left to just fall apart. It's in great ruins, and you have to look at it through a chain link fence. and they keep talking about fixing it, and now they're finally getting something to do. Because you can imagine it's just like Flushing Meadows Corona Park for the '64 fair. It was never finished, never done right, and then things are just left to rot and fall apart. And then they did do an awful lot of reconfiguration of the fair site for the Olympics when they tore out a tremendous number of the pavilions, put in rowing basins, stuff like that. So, a lot of it's gone and changed, but if you go there, you really feel like you're back. You can very easily fix where things are, particularly when you have a major thing like the US Pavilion still there, and you can start extrapolating what was around there since then. So, but it's a wonderful park. I really, walk across the bridges and you go out there, and you walk into a quiet island, and in your brain you hear all the music and sounds and the crowds and everything. It's sort of like you're walking through a time machine. But I just love walking across the bridge, looking down at the river, and that thing really rips through there. So
Yes.
I have to assume that, like, did the person develop this World's Fair visit the New York? I mean, like, borrow the ideas or say, oh, we need to fix this idea from like visiting New York's World's Fair as they were developing this World's Fair or this expo?
yeah, people, it's interesting. I gave a talk last Saturday or last Friday rather, to a college. It was a rehash of the talk on Disney and World's Fairs, and people were talking about using ideas like Kendall asked earlier about Disney and the globes, and I have a slide in there how certain things that are similar, like the people mover system, not the people mover, the Omni Mover system at Disney World that takes you through the Haunted Mansion and things like that. It looks very much like the cars that took you through the Bell system at the 64 World's Fair. So I was mentioning how everybody has probably seen the movie National Lampoon's Family Vacation, and he goes to Wally World. Well, I had left Disney and I was working at Warner Brothers, and our company store, we were selling Wally World shirts. And I wore one to something, and a whole bunch of the Disney guys I worked with all wanted Wally World shirts. So I went and bought a whole bunch of Wally World shirts, and we all went down to Disneyland one day, wearing Wally World shirts. And we're standing in line for the Pirates of the Caribbean, and this woman says something about, what's Wally World? And we said, what's Wally World? You've never heard of Wally World? And she goes, no. I said, it's the greatest theme park in the entire world. It is the theme park. And we're gushing over Wally World. And I said, and she goes, well, it's better than Disneyland. I said, Disneyland? Oh, no. Where do you think all the ideas come from at Disneyland? They come from Wally World. And this woman says, no, I refuse to believe that Disney stole his ideas from Wally World. So my friends reach in their wallet and they all take out their wet Imagineering ID cards. And where do you think we get our ideas from? And the lady was horrified. They later told her, no, just joking, sort of thing. But it was really funny. The look on her face when she, thinks that, oh yeah, the Haunted Mansion we have at Wally World is 10 times the size of this one. And we don't just have Pirates of the Caribbean, we have Pirates of the World, and it was great. So somewhere I probably have a shirt that has mysteriously shrunk over the years and won't fit me, but I probably have a Wally World shirt somewhere. And Carol and I live all of, I think, 15 miles from Magic Mountain these days. So when we would drive up there, we had season passes for a while, take the kids. We would always drive in. I expected to see, I'm sorry, the booth says we're closed, but great film.
I should have told you.
Beth, did you want to show any of your slides today?
Yeah, I've just got a few I can show, but
yeah, hang on. Let me make you a co-host here. 1 second.
Okay.
Love your backdrop.
That is, it's called Gibbs Gardens. It's about an hour from our house. Okay, can you see that one?
So she started screen sharing. Oh, there we go. Now I see it. Yes.
Yeah, so this is one of two that I've got here from the fair in Chicago in 1893. So here's the second one. So these are glass slides, and they're again about 3 by 4 inches. But they do have a lot of detail. They're very dirty. You can see all the all the dirt. We may be able to get some dirt off. You know, I don't know how much of an effort we'll go to truly try to restore these, but you know, some of the dirt we'll be able to clean off. These were just some early scans when we were just looking to see what was in this group. But I love all the detail in these. And then this is these next two, we had just set on a light board. We didn't scan these. We just set these on a light board, and I took a picture with my phone. So you can see on the slides, they all have labels on each side. So this is the Palace of Fine Arts from the the Pan Pacific Fair in 1915. And then this is the interior of the Bradbury Building in Los Angeles. I just thought it was a nice photo too. So there's a lot in there. This is a set of about 2,000 slides, and they're all architectural photos. There are some that are grouped by architect, but a lot of them are just, you know, from different cities. Or my son has gone through and tried to at least sort all of them by country and then by city. And so he's starting to make his way through scanning everything. So it'll be interesting to see what all he finds in there. We're still fairly early on in the process, but there really are some beautiful slides. And some of them, like these two, I don't think are quite as dirty as these older ones were. But you know, it's kind of a mixed bag. Some of the slides are broken, and we found that even when we scan it, even if there's a crack in the glass, some of them still scan pretty well. So he'll scan the ones even that are cracked, just to see what's in there. But it's an interesting collection. We're having fun with it.
Yeah, I have a set of the glass slides from the 33 Chicago Fair done in stereo. And every time I go near them, I'm scared of them. Matter of fact, I think they're still sitting here behind me. No, that's a different pile. But you know, I want to clean them, but I'm scared to death of damaging the damn thing. So
Yeah.
they're all wrapped up in bubble wrap and tissue paper. That's pretty neat. Have you been to the Bradbury Building?
No, we haven't.
Well, if you ever come out here, it's really amazing building to go into. You know, it's downtown LA is not, some parts that are, yeah, other parts are okay, but that building is really nice. The thing that's interesting is that's where LAPD has their internal affairs division. So
Okay.
I made the mention one time to somebody that, oh, Carol and I was at the Bradbury Building over the weekend, and I went, oh my God, what did you do? You know, no, it's just they're visiting. They have a big sign about nobody goes above this floor. And no, but you know, then you know, you have to worry they think you're down there thinking on somebody or something. But yeah, it's a great building that you can walk in. Oh, Wally World t-shirts for everybody. I have to see what this link is here. Let's see. Yeah, it's a little bit different design than the ones we had, but yeah, I may have to get myself a Wally World shirt that fits. That's kind of cute. Yeah, so you know, it's Warner Brothers. They made all sorts of stuff for you know, the different movies, you know, that they would happily sell in the company store. You know, that you could get some shirt promoting whatever we were selling or whatever. So I look up in the closet that I'm starting to clean out and go, why did I buy so much of this crap? But yeah, it was the price was right. I don't know if I'm doing a talk next weekend. There's an LAPD event that I thought I was getting out of, and my sergeant called me today. There was another event that was scheduled this morning that they called us yesterday and said, oh, we probably don't need you guys, so you don't need to do it, which is great because I wasn't planning on doing it. He called me this morning and said, oh my God, did we make a mistake not calling you guys in today? We really needed you. So I'm probably going to end up doing crowd control for a big church event next weekend. So if that changes, I'll put something online. But otherwise, 2 weeks from now, I'll be back. We'll have a lot more stuff. It seems like this time of year there's some LAPD event every weekend. So I told him no, I will not do the event on the 25th because as Carol knows, they'll just keep coming.
Hey, Bill.
Yeah, Baron.
Thank you, Bill.
Yeah, Baron.
Bill.
You're out of focus.
Good to see you, Bill.
Thanks, Kendall. Thanks, Kendall.
Take care.
Yeah, Baron, what you need? Yeah, Baron, what you need?
I said you're out of focus.
Am I out of focus? Am I out of focus?
Yeah.
Sometimes the camera does that. Sometimes the camera does that. How's that?
I'm also getting an echo.
Your background. I was gonna say your background is great, but you're out of focus.
Well, some of my logic is very fuzzy too. So Well, great. I hope people enjoyed the trip back. And like I said, for me, having that reel of silent film, taking it out, not knowing what was on it, and finding that it was a helicopter tour of construction was like, holy crap, that's wonderful. So, yeah. Welcome back, Carolyn. You have to tell us all about your trips later.
Oh, I will, especially the part about landing at Van Nuys.
Yes, yeah. Yeah. For the folks that don't know it, Carolyn booked an airline that evidently is sort of like the Hooterville airline, flies between.
No, it's a private jet
corners.
service out of near Denver, and it was cheaper than going Southwest because Southwest was melting down. So I was supposed to fly into Burbank, and it was during the atmospheric river, and pilots were waved off at Burbank because they couldn't be sure that the runway was clear because it was so foggy and rainy. So they waved us off, and we circled around for half an hour and then landed at Van Nuys, much to the surprise of the people at Signature Aviation who didn't know we were coming. So it was fun. And I'm just now getting my Uber reimbursed for that.
Oh, great. Well,
so yeah, more details later.
Like to see pictures from your trip. I saw some of the ones you were posting, and then
yeah, it was a lot of fun
down at Epcot. So we like to see pictures of that. We're not going anywhere, doing anything. I have to live vicariously through you folks. Great. Well, I can hear the dogs barking on the other side. Poor Carol is going, what are they barking at now? I thought we were going to make it without the dogs, because the mail lady came at 9:45, and it's like, thank you very much. The dogs are going to be quiet. Now I think if I can interpret, they're saying squirrel must die. So great. We'll see you all hopefully in 2 weeks then. Take care.
Okay.
See you later, Bill.
Thank you so much.
Thanks, Bill.
Bye.